When Jake Patterson first met Jamie Kloss, he couldn't think of anyone else. The 21-year-old man knew that a relationship between him and the 13-year-old schoolgirl was simply impossible, so he devised a creepy plan to reunite them. The discovery of the crime and the identity of the villain came as a real shock to the residents of Gordon, Wisconsin. After all, in this sleepy little town, where everyone knows each other well, only 600 people live. Therefore, no one could ever imagine that one of their neighbors is a monster in human form. James and Denise Kloss were a very ordinary family working on a poultry farm in Barron, Wisconsin. Their daughter, Jamie, was in 8th grade. In her spare time, she took dance class, roller skated, or played volleyball at the local sports club. Jamie was James and Denise's only and long-awaited child. To their delight, she was the perfect daughter they could only dream of, obedient, kind, and compassionate. On weekends, the family would often take their dog, Molly, and go on vacation to Lake Michigan. It seemed that their happy and idyllic life would last for many, many more years. But Kloss's peaceful life was shattered to the ground on the night of October 15, 2018, when Jake Patterson burst into their home on the outskirts of town with a shotgun in his hands. All he wanted was Jamie, but he wasn't about to leave any witnesses. After killing James and Denise, he pushed the sobbing girl into the trunk of his car and fled from the scene of the crime, which resembled a scene from a horror movie. From the outside looking in, this horrific crime seemed spontaneous. But the fact is that Jake started planning it 2 months ago, the day when, while passing through Barron's, he saw Jamie getting off the bus. The man had fallen fanatically in love with the schoolgirl and told himself he would get her at any cost. To accomplish this, Jake borrowed a shotgun from his father, made fake license plates for the car, and bought a mask. Now he was ready to put his crazy plan into action. After about an hour and a half, Jake reached his home in Gordon, about 100 kilometers from Barron. He drove slowly so as not to draw attention to himself, and even the police who came across his car paid no attention to him. So Jamie ended up in Patterson's house, becoming his favorite wife for the next 88 days. Interestingly, he hid the girl right under the bed, which he furnished with heavy bags and weights around the perimeter. The worst thing is that the schoolgirl was there even when he had visitors. True, Jake turned on loud music in case Jamie broke her promise and called for help. As for Patterson, teachers at the school he attended described him as a quiet, smiling, well-read and very shy boy who wouldn't hurt a fly. Some of Jake's friends noticed a change in his behavior in 2007, when the 10-year-old's parents divorced and began a bitter custody battle. It is not known whether his parents' divorce had an effect on him or whether something dark lurked inside Jake from the beginning, but over the years he became increasingly withdrawn and unsociable, preferring to keep to himself. His attitude toward others is most clearly reflected in a group photo with his classmates, in which Jake sits alone, tucked into a book, while other young people pose with smiles on their faces. In 2015, Jake enlisted in the U.S. Marine Corps, but was discharged a month later. The reason given in the report, Patterson's character of service does not meet the expectations and standards of the Marine Corps. It's unclear what Jake ultimately intended to do with Jamie. One thing is clear, in 3 months the police hadn't made one iota of progress in finding the killer, and it's likely he would have gotten away with the crimes without the schoolgirl taking the initiative. On January 10, 2019, Jake told Jamie he was going out for a few hours. He'd gone for an interview, by the way, planning to get a job as a loader at a warehouse in Superior. "I'm an honest and hard-working guy," Jake wrote on his resume. "I don't have much work experience, but I'm a fast learner." Jamie, meanwhile, pulled herself together and, with great difficulty, pushed off the weight on the bed and managed to get out from under it. She put on the first clothes and shoes she could find and ran outside. Fortunately, the girl almost immediately met a woman walking her dog. The schoolgirl's rescuer still remembers the heartbreaking plea of the crying girl, "I'm Jamie Kloss. I don't know where I am. Please help me, I want to go home." Jake was arrested hours after rescuing Jamie and charged with crimes against the Kloss family. 5 months later, on May 24, 2019, Patterson was sentenced to 2 life sentences. Later, when asked about the time Jamie was in his captivity, Jake told a reporter, "We just watched TV, played board games, talked about things. We did a lot of cooking. I think she liked spending time together." But if you believe what Jamie said, it wasn't like that at all. After all, the schoolgirl had to pose as his wife, and at the same time she did not forget for a moment what Patterson did to her parents. Today, Jamie lives with her aunt, uncle and her dog, Molly, who spent 3 months in a shelter. She is without a doubt a very brave girl who has not fallen down after all that has happened. Jake Patterson took a lot of things from me that I love, my mom and my dad. But there are some things he can never take from me. He can't take away my freedom. He thought he could own me, and he was wrong. I was smarter than that. I pretended and watched him, and when I had the chance, I took my freedom back. Now I'll always be free, he'll be behind bars forever, Jamie said in an interview.